We gain control of Shion and are tasked with meeting up with our two rescues in the hangar. So we head to the elevator to get to the basement floor? Do ships have basements? That's what the B usually stands for. Maybe it's below deck. Anyway, when we get down there, the place is swarming with attack mechs. And would you look at that, we can now use the electromagnetic anti-intruder floors by hitting that switch. The electric floors incapacitate the auto techs, but this also closes the partition, so we have to go the long way around to get to the hangar. Now, every container we blew up for items has actually replenished, but I'm not going to go over them all since for the most part, they're just more healing items in the same spots. We head down a ladder and our perspective shifts to where we're in control of Ziggy and Momo, as they make their way up the catapult deck. There are a couple of auto techs in our way, called domos. They fight pretty simply, using beam weapons that can lower our ether attack. This can be annoying, but usually isn't enough to lower our damage to the point that we can't two-shot them. We put Momo on the front lines this time, as her ether attacks can do a good bit of damage to them. We hit up the stairs at the end of the deck and meet up with the others that thankfully made their way here without our input. The two parties make introductions, Ziggy starting by calling himself Ziggurat 8 before looking at Momo and switching to Ziggy. Note that I don't think he does this for himself, but to make Momo feel more like a person. If he doesn't have to go by his serial number, she doesn't either. He goes on to explain that they're on the run from the UTIC organization, who sent the Autotechs after them. Autotechs are unmanned ships that carry fighters inside of them, and they can deploy not only directly, but once docked, can transfer more seemingly through teleportation. This means that the mechs aren't going to stop unless we take out the mothership. With this, we now have more party members than we can take in battle. Despite having 6 slots we can put characters in, we can only bring 3 into fights. And yes, we can now use Chaos in battle. I'll be mixing up characters as the series go on, just for variety and so we can see all their moves. Characters in reserve do still gain experience points, but at a slower rate than those in battle. In addition, characters in battle will gain tech and ether points quicker by making use of the points bonus event slot. Again, what those do exactly, I'll go over once we have all our characters, which is soon, I promise. We can also run around as any character currently in our party by setting them as the lead character. As for what's best here, really anything will work. Because Shion, Momo, and Chaos all have access to healing spells, you're guaranteed to have at least one healer. I would always use at least one between Cosmos or Ziggy, however, as there still are heavy hitters. Traversing the Elsa is the same as it was before, except now there's killer robots everywhere, and a few canisters we can blow up to paralyze and burn them. The Domos come in 2 variants, A's and B's. The A's have more health, and the B's deal more damage from a range. Chaos is useful here because he's a decent damage dealer, but he also has a useful healing spell called Healing Dew that, while it doesn't heal as much as Shion or Momo's, it heals the entire party. The audio techs aren't that big of threats, but they can take a while to fight through, since fights with them will most often have 4 robots to take out. Once we reach the electromagnetic floor, we find that we're not too worried about the electric part, but it's the magnetic part that makes us move real fucking slow. Thankfully, it makes the Autotechs not move at all, so it's fairly easy to maneuver around them to pick up some of the refurbished goodies. This isn't where we actually need to go, however, as the mothership has docked in the hangar. Once we fight our way down there, we get a short scene showing our prey. We don't have to fight it right away though, as there's a chest in front of it that contains a beam coat, which will be useful in the coming boss fight. We activate such fight by just running into it.
A worthy adversary.
Okay, that might have gone on by a little too quick, but it's actually the main mechanic of this fight. The Domo Carrier is actually a pretty cool fight designed to test the player's knowledge at this point, and one you actually have to pass. What it did was set a random event slot that, if it has a turn while that event slot is active, it'll use its Tremor attack, which, you saw it. It fucking sucks. While yes, this means you can heal up and prepare for Tremor, since remember, the event slots always follow the same order, the true counter here lies in using the boost system. If you see the boss has its turn when the saved event slot is coming up, or even when you're not sure who will have the turn when it does come up, boost and deny the Tremor. Now this means you are vulnerable at the start of the fight since you won't have boost, but it is possible to endure a few. As long as it doesn't end up saving a critical up slot, then you can get fucked. But also, remember that taking damage fills the boost gauge too. This isn't the only trick up the boss's sleeve, however. Its basic maneuver is a hard-hitting beam attack that can lower ether attack. This can suck because it's only really vulnerable to ether attacks. In addition, it can heal itself for quite a bit, and as far as I know, there's no way to stop this. It just effectively gives you time to recover and increases the boss's health. Finally, it didn't do it in this fight, but when it gets low enough, it can self-destruct, doing damage to your whole party, but killing itself if you can survive it. I'll tell you right now, the easiest way to do this fight is to use eggs. Xion still has hers, and you might not know it, but Chaos has his own. Soup them up with dual-wielded weapons and W-act your way to victory. I opted to go with just Xion and her eggs, and used Cosmos and Ziggy for a more risky, but still aggressive fight. Cosmos because she deals the most damage, and Ziggy because he's tanky and has access to a lightning ether attack, which the boss is weak to. Now, the tremors are what's gonna fuck up new players that aren't paying attention, but also, if the boss just decides to keep healing itself like it did here, the fight can really drag on. Not an issue if you go dual eggs, but you might end up using more healing items than you're comfortable with otherwise. Overall, it's not too difficult a fight, however, as long as you save boosts for the tremor slot. Again, if you don't know that one of your characters is gonna get that slot, just boost to be safe. I don't think this boss can boost itself, so this is really just a test to see if you remember the order the event slots go in. We pump it full of damage, mostly from Xion W-acting with her Uzis, and we killed the bad robot.
How's it look?
We got problems all over. The entire radar system is down. I bet the emitter's completely fried now.
The generator output keeps on dropping. I guess we ran the ship into the hyperspace column walls a few times too many, thanks to a certain idiot who flies like a maniac.
What? Hey! Who do you think it was that saved us?
I wish you'd consider what the navigator has to go through. I'm getting carpal tunnel thanks to you.
Why don't you just direct link it?
Isn't it obvious? It's way cooler to navigate by hand.
Are you stupid or something?
Mind your own business. At least I'm more useful than a certain out-of-control lunatic.
Oh, okay now. So you think you're the man, huh?
You wanna go? What you got?
Bring it on.
That's enough! Both of you morons, shut up! I'm sick of listening to your whining! My head hurts enough just thinking about what these repairs are gonna cost. The last thing I need is to babysit the two of you.
We're back.
Oh, if I had known I'd be doing this, I would have spent more time at the firing range. What's going on?
Nothing. Good work. So, who are these guys?
She's Momo, and this is Ziggy. Looks like they're both with the Federation government.
Nice to meet you.
You two were the ones in the ship out there?
Thank you very much for rescuing us.
Thanks for your help.
They were being held by the UTIC organization, but they managed to escape.
The UTIC organization?
Captain.
Never thought I'd have to hear that cursed name again.
What is it? That you whatever?
Nothing you need to worry about. Well, stop wasting time and plot our course already.
You heard him. It's nothing a stupid navigator needs to worry about.
Alan, hurry up and clean up the top of the panel. This stuff's in the way.
What? You're the one who left these here? Don't take it out on me.
This is for you.
Thanks, Cosmos. Alan, wake up already.
Here's your tea.
What's wrong with you?
Thanks. Just set it down there.
I'm telling you, that was crazy.
It was a close one, wasn't it?
I gotta say, though, those were some pretty sweet moves out there, old man.
Thank you very much.
What? Whoa! Hold on a sec, that was you?
Well, yes. I handled the flight controls.
Ugh. Unbelievable. Shown up by a little girl. Kids these days.
That's pretty amazing, even for a Realian. Hey, that insignia on your uniform,
Yes?
is that... Are you from the Mizrahi lab?
Yes, I'm an observational Realian.
It's okay, you don't have to worry. If you're concerned about government secrets, Cosmos is one too. So, you're a 100 series observational Realian from the Mizrahi lab. A Hilbert-equipped model, right? Cosmos is equipped with it too, you know. The Hilbert effect. But of course, ours is a Vector original.
You're with Vector Industries?
Yep. So is Alan over there.
Leave me alone.
Now, some may find this cut contentious, but consider, Alan's degradation of himself here in front of the object of his affection can be considered a self-cuck, and truly, is that not the worst cuck of all?
By the way, where are you headed? We might be able to get you there for a small fee if it's not too far out of the way. Right, Captain?
Yeah, of course. After all, we are in the transport business.
Transport? Then could you please take us to Could you please take us to the second Miltian star system?
Second Miltia? You too?
What do you mean, you too?
Oh, it's just a strange coincidence, that's all. Cosmos' new deployment is on Second Miltia also.
Hey, that's great. It'll cost less if you're all going the same way, Xion.
Well, I suppose that's true.
Captain, what about ship repairs?
Yeah, we gotta take care of that first. Let's stop at a nearby dock colony. That all right with you?
Of course.
Thank you for taking us.
Well, relax and enjoy the trip. Hey, Ms. Vector, show him around, would you?
He's being unusually nice.
What? I got a booger hanging out of my nose, or?
What? No, nothing. All right then, shall we go? Momo? Ziggy?
We head to the crew quarters, Xion explaining that it's cabin 2, which so far has been all to herself since she's a goyle and all. But she says it'll be less lonely now that Momo's aboard. We have the option to continue the story here, but there are actually some bonus scenes that we can get by showing Ziggy and Momo other parts of the ship. First is that strange interim room that leads to the hangar. Xion just up and decides that this is where Ziggy is gonna stay, which, I mean, there are 2 cabins. I don't know why he has to stay here, Xion, but whatever. By going to the corner of this room, we get an email from Sugiyama Securities. This is our return on our latest investment, this time giving us 4,000 G and reducing the prices of Aegis weapons by 10%. We show them the Aegis hangar next, where Xion explains that her Aegis is a prototype. She also mentions Chaos's Aegis is kept here and that Hammer does all the maintenance on it. Next is the maintenance lab, where she explains that Cosmos essentially has to sleep between operations to maintain her systems. Xion and Momo muse over whether Cosmos dreams. Finally, we show them the catapult deck, where Xion explains that the crew just threw the ship Ziggy and Momo came in on out into space because it was too banged up. Seems kinda irresponsible, but I guess space is a big place, whatever. Xion also mentions that she was able to catch the ship with that arm in the last cutscene because she had some experience with a drill crane. Oh, maybe Mr. Driller had a point after all. Up ahead, we get yet another email from Sugiyama Securities and another investment opportunity. They want 2,000 and our choices are ACM, a manufacturer of eggs frames, Mercedes Technologies, I'm gonna be honest, I don't know what they are, but they seem to be a software developer of some kind. And finally, Vector.com, the computation branch of Vector, who are working on a particle accelerator with the rest. We go with Vector again, because, that's our brand, man. With that, we go back to the cabin to turn in and get one of these screens. So, buckle up, Buttercup.
It was very dark, and the wind howled horribly around her. She felt as if she were being rocked gently like a baby in a cradle. Huh. All's quiet after the storm. There's no trace of anything. Over. I wonder, does that lake of darkness where Nero does his fishing look something like this?
You're quite the poet today, little master. Where do you come up with this stuff, huh?
Read some books, Mary. It's good for you.
Books are made from paper, little master. And they're such a pain to carry around.
Paper and stone tablets last longer than optical data, you know. Besides, reading a book helps me get to sleep. How's the sensor readout? Anything showing up?
Nothing at all. It's as if even the atoms are at rest.
Not even gas or dust? If it was a giant flare, it should have at least left behind some high-energy particles. How could that be? An entire planet was here just a little while ago.
Retrieving Little Master. Open Cargo Bay 6.
Opening Cargo Bay 6. Opening Cargo Bay 6. Let's go! Keep up the pace, everyone. We still got work to do. Hey, welcome back, little master.
Yo. Ariadne's completely vanished. But it doesn't seem like it was destroyed. It's almost as if someone is hiding it somewhere.
Hiding it? Where would that be?
Who knows? The best way to find out would be to ask the person who's hiding it. Shelley?
It's very slight, but I'm getting a reaction from the primer. No question about it.
Some kids playing with matches, maybe? What happened to that fleet anyway?
We haven't heard anything since we picked up that distress signal 6 hours ago. Gnosis, huh? They must have been totally wiped out.
Not necessarily. When the little ones play with fire, you know their folks can't be too far behind.
Oh, I get it. So you reckon that the mama's gonna show up soon?
Exactly. Change course. Proceed to the last known coordinates of the Federation fleet.
We underestimated him by thinking he was just a relic from an age gone by. In regards to the information leak, we traced it to the Special Ops Intelligence Bureau. We're currently looking into how they discovered the route to Proloma. I apologize for the trouble.
It's inevitable. There will always be vermin. I'll leave their extermination to you.
Very well. So, do you really think they will show up?
Oh, they'll come. After all, that's the reason for their existence. It also happens to be Miltia's Achilles' heel.
I'll handle the negotiations with the military. I leave the rest to you.
Commander?
Cherenkov. What is it?
The Zohar was taken by the Gnosis. But I managed to secure the 100 series Realian. It's currently on board a cargo ship, headed for the Miltian star system. I believe it is the same one you had secured on Preloma. What do you...
Just stick to your duties.
What?
Don't do anything beyond the scope of your mission. We've already confirmed all the variables. The situation is proceeding according to plan.
But sir...
Return to headquarters at once. I'll deal with you then. Understood? Get the registration of the ship that signal came from. Track Cherenkov's marker.
Yes, sir.
You just love barking out those orders, don't you, Margulis? Show a little love to your dogs, or else they might bite you one day.
You...
The prototype belongs to me. I've grown bored with these Kirschwassers.
So you're going?
I think I'm more likely to succeed than your dogs. Ah, yes. Feed me your hostility. Pierce me with your hatred.
No, wait.
Don't worry. I won't get in your way. We're working toward the same goal, right? My adorable little Pesh.
Is it wise to leave this matter to him?
I'm not leaving anything to him. He has his uses, that's all.
Figures. It's like diving into shark-infested waters with a big juicy steak. Bingo! I've found the remains of a Zohar security ring. I guess this is where they were storing it. Shelly, Set the sequencing primer.
Roger. Initiating primer walking. Analyzing gate in wake.
If they're already out of range, we're out of luck. Let's hope they're still hanging around nearby.
I can't believe you're hoping those things are still here. Aren't you scared, little master?
Heck, there are plenty of things in this world scarier than the Gnosis. So, how is it? Have they already gone over to the other side?
Just hold your horses there, little master. I'm in the middle of analyzing.
What? What is it?
Emergency alert! Looks like someone got here before us. It appears we're completely surrounded.
Using short jumps, huh? That's pretty damn clever.
Little master, are they? Yeah, no question about it. They're from UTIC. Mary, I'll head back after I take care of these guys. Order all crew to return to the Durandal.
This is a very easy battle. It's just 4 auto techs against our eggs that they can't even hurt. So while we mop them up, let's go over a few things. This group, seemingly led by a child, is investigating the same planet that the Woglinde was, which we now know to be called Ariadne. In the process, they come across the remains of the Woglinde and finally give us the name of whatever the emulator was emulating, the Zohar. We also discover that Shirinkov isn't the only UTIC plant in the Federation, as this dickwad from the Council that hired Ziggy is also an agent. Margulis also works with creepy fucking weirdos, but we don't know much about him yet.
To cover up the evidence?
Little master, you've got to hurry back. Their mothership is coming.
What's the situation?
It's a standard attack vessel. Unknown registration. All weapons are at Condition Zebra. Interlocks removed. Awaiting orders, sir.
Channel into the high-velocity cannon system.
Connection to high-velocity cannon system complete.
Enemy photon torpedo on the port side. Impact imminent. The shield is still holding.
Man, all we were doing was investigating the scene. You'd think they could just leave us alone. Match course and speed.
Course and speed modified. Ready to fire.
Take this! at that, little master. They're already starting to play.
The enemy mothership has begun its retreat.
It'd be nice if we could just let him go. But we can't do that, can we? Shelly, give him a little nudge.
And when he says a little nudge, you know what that means.
Set engines to ramming speed. Penetrate the port side and prepare for combat.
Our objective is the enemy mainframe. Utilize all available terminals and counter any protective measures. Once inside, engage all hostiles. All hands, move out. Well, shall we head for the bridge, little master? Ready?
All right, let's get this over with and go home.
We now have control of, I'm not gonna call him fucking Little Master. His name's Junior. It's not really a spoiler. You can see it on the level up screen from the last fight, okay? So, it's Junior. We hit through a shaft and get to see the consequences of ramming a spear-shaped ship into another ship. We enter the ship proper, and of course, start to blow shit up and stealing things in them. We get an antidote, a medkit, some tech upgrades, and some ether upgrades. Ahead, we're blocked by a laser grid, but blowing up a suspiciously placed generator disables it. Really bad security from UTech. We head past where we find another generator that opens another pathway. We blow up this wall panel, which has a man in it. The enemies here are basically the same as those we fought at the UTIC facility as Ziggy and Momo, just a little bit higher level. In addition to Junior, we have Mary and unnamed Soldier Man, both of which are constrained to eggs. We can also put Junior in his eggs, but I keep him out of it because it looks funny. Battles here are more of just a waste of your time than any kind of actual challenge. I suppose if you get real unlucky and every enemy focuses Junior when he's not in his eggs, he could go down, but with two powerful eggs that basically can't take damage from half the enemies in here, we're never in really any danger. Junior himself fights with dual pistols, focusing on physical attacks. He does have an ether attack, but it's a tech attack that the default route to is square triangle, different than every other character we've played with so far. After defeating the Wallman, we chance another panel and get 2 skill upgrades. We hit through the path we opened up to find a flashing console, the use of which opens 2 doors that allow us to proceed. When we get past the second door though, these 2 assholes demon souls us and ambush from both sides. This isn't a single fight, by the way, the other guy rushes you down after the first. Past them we find a closet that contains a single container, inside of which are 2 frame repairs. To the north, we come to another room with a flashing console and a big 4 on a screen. Unsurprisingly, this is the door number 4 switch, which we press to open the, well, number 4 door. Heading into the number 4 door, we immediately start ransacking, getting a cure-all and a biosphere. A cure-all is exactly what it says, a restorative item that clears any status effect. We also find some wounded soldiers, ones that are on our side, reminding us the grim realities that come along with being an NPC. Just below them, we find a room that contains a save point. Yay! Ignore the fucked up thumbnails, they don't usually look like that. We now head past our fallen comrades to blow up some plants for some skill and tech upgrades. We come across this door with a strange panel next to it with a wire that leads to a wall console. Blowing up the console blows up the panel. Now, we do this because if we don't and try to open the door, like with the one next to it, we get fucking told on. This Gardas is the toughest enemy in the area. It's still not much of a threat, but it has a ton of health. Anyway, we circumvent Utik's incredibly circumventable security and find a lone soldier inside. Seems like an easy fight until he boards an eggs called a Zolfo, after which it becomes a very long, easy fight. I suppose you could call this a mini-boss, but since you've access to 3 eggs, it's not much of one. I don't here, but I would recommend putting Junior in his just to speed things along, since he barely tickles the thing without it. After dealing with him, we blow up a corner of the room to find some skill upgrades and a segment address. This is segment address 11, and it's actually one we have the key to. Yeah, I don't know if I mentioned it, but we get to keep all the items we've gained from other party members, even though they've never met our current party, but whatever, it lets us in the door. Inside, we find an ice coat. Continuing south, we blow up a wall panel to get 5 ether upgrades, and then we get ambushed again. After that, we find another console, this time to door number 5, which opens ahead of us. We go south first, however, and enter the eggs hangar, picking up a cure-all on the way in. At the end of the walkways here are consoles that we can blow up for some items. We get a frame repair, an ether upgrade, and in a chest we find a tech upgrade. We run across the hangar and into yet another ambush. After murdering more men, we enter this cool little lab area to blow up a box that reveals a chest that contains a Utik card. Further down, we enter a similar room where on a desk we find card number 3. This is just the card area, the place where we get cards. Having gotten our cards, we head back up and oh shit, they got the robots now. Back in the area with the alarm doors, we find another door with a key card slot. We use the Utik card to get in, where we find a chest that contains decoder 16. We head all the way back to the room with the wounded soldiers to find door 3 in the room which opens it. We need to use our card number 3 to activate the console first though. You see, I'm thinking ahead. I got you. This was a trick. Merely a ruse to confuse you and not me accidentally doing things out of order and being too lazy to edit things so it looks like I didn't. We open door number 3. Inside we find that it leads to the bridge, and Mary reminds us that we're looking for the mainframe. This thing is the mainframe. Mary and Junior start to extract whatever information they're looking for out of it, but eventually we get fucking told on again, and the security system activates. This boss, called Ambix, is, I think, supposed to have some sort of mechanic. As it takes damage, it lets us know that its counter boost system is fluctuating and, I'm gonna be honest, I don't know what this means because all you do is wail on it with your eggs and then it dies. It can deal damage to all your units at once, but not enough to be an issue. Just put Junior in his eggs, build up to WX, and hit the dang thing.
We've hacked into the enemy mainframe. Okay, so now what? Shall I copy or transmit it?
They've already entered the manual override code. The partitions are being deleted. Hurry up and start your transmission.
Roger. You just clear your head out and wait for me.
I tell ya, being able to interlink with your sister has got to be real convenient.
I wouldn't say that. She has so many random thoughts.
I can't help it. We're humans, not realians. You can telepathically talk to the Kaiser, right, little master? That sounds a lot more convenient to me. You don't need this annoying contraption either.
Not really. I have to constantly make sure I watch what I'm thinking. Or else I start sending thoughts I don't want to send. The whole thing's just as tiring as hell. It'd be easier just to write him a letter.
Oh, I didn't know it was like that.
Yep, that's how it is. You okay, Mary?
Yeah, I'm all right, but look what you did. Oh.
I'm sorry to say that all data from the enemy mainframe has been lost.
Oops.
It's because of all those cheesy action flicks you keep on watching.
They've launched a lifeboat. Shall we pursue?
Nah, no need to pursue them that far. We just need to know where they're headed. Place a trace request with the UMN Administration Bureau. Let's head back. Hurry up with the retrieval preparations on board the Durandal. All hands, check your equipment. Don't leave any evidence behind.
Amazing. I can't believe how much his personality changes when he's holding a gun.
A lust for conquest and absolute power, and the desire to have a really big gun. I suppose that'd be the standard explanation.
You don't hold back, do you, Shelley?
Although, in Little Master's case, it's probably just a complex about his height.
Probably, but I think Little Master's plenty attractive just the way he is.
True. Mary, we'll be leaving in 2 minutes. Hurry back, okay?
Roger. It's a shame. Little Master doesn't have any choice in the matter but to stay that size.